In the meantime, hi everybody, Elisabetta, also on behalf of Ilaria. Ciao Gilla.
Ciao Elisabetta, welcome. Thanks for being with us. The magic Ilaria and Elisabetta were instrumental for our success in Italy, so I'm super happy to have you here with us tonight. Okay, so I think we can kick this off and then other people will join, but let's try to be on time. So welcome everyone to the official deadline of the stopglobalwarming.eu initiative. It's been quite a marathon, considering that we officially signed the initiative on the 19th of July 2019. It was another era. It seems like another era to talk about 2019. We had been one of the longest standing European citizen initiatives in the history of the instrument, considering that the usual amount of time for the collection of signatures is 12 months. But due to the circumstances of COVID-19, we had quite a few extensions in the terms of collection of signatures. I'm gonna ask you guys to mute your microphones so that we avoid background noises. So today we are here because, as I said, the official date for the collection of signatures on the European Citizen Initiative has been reached. So from today we can't collect signatures anymore. But this doesn't mean that the challenge for carbon pricing is finished, not at all. As you know, we launched stopglobalwarming.eu with a specific request, which is the proposal for the European Commission for carbon pricing in the European Union with a series of elements, including the expansion of the ETS, the emission trading scheme, the carbon border adjustment, and in particular, this idea of associating carbon pricing to lowering taxes for workers. So to make sure that a sustainability policy would have been also a social policy to create the right approach on the long term. We collected officially, so we can say the number now, 60,945 signatures, which is, of course, very far away from the 1 million signatures needed by the European Citizen Initiative to be officially considered by the European Commission through the audition in the Commission and in the Parliament. However, this number positions us as a successful ECI in the sense of 60,000 citizens put the time to put their signature on the European Citizen Initiative. And I would like to highlight how during the campaign, and particularly in May, in collaboration with other promoters of European Citizen Initiative, we launched the YouGov survey that unveiled the real awareness of European citizens of this instrument of participatory democracy provided by the European treaties. The result of the survey showed that only 2.4% of EU citizens are aware of what is the European Citizen Initiative, which means ultimately that they are aware of the right to take part into the European democratic process through this instrument. So this is not a justification for the result that we get, but it's also important to have a evidence-based approach also to the use of participatory democracy. The initiative was carried on and led by Humans, the citizens movement that I have the honor to coordinate. But our effort for the entire campaign was to create an opportunity for citizens to activate themselves to the fight against climate change through the adoption of participatory democracy instruments. In the communication that we sent in these weeks, we tried to share also the variety of supporters that engaged in the campaign, particularly in the last 12 months. This is, I think, and we think, represented by the over 100 mayors from all over the European Union who took a stand not only for carbon pricing, but also for the usage of participatory democracy as an instrument to carry on this proposal. And probably is the most European element that we brought to the campaign. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to try to start and have an evaluation of the effort that all of us put into the campaign, but also to have a scientific evaluation of what Stop Global Warming was proposing, what had been presented by the European Commission last week with the Fit for 55 package, which is the legislative initiative that was kicked off by the EU Commission in this new phase. And we will do this with Professor Alberto Maiocchi, that was the scientist that created the first proposal of stopglobalwarming.eu. So we will have him trying to give us a bit of perspective of what was our proposal, what is happening with the Fit for 55, and what is the perspective of this proposal on a European scale, but also on a global scale. This year is also the year of the COP26 in Milano and in Glasgow. So part of the meeting tonight is also to try and think of what can be done next. At the same time, we have all seen how carbon pricing for a few hours last week was the thing in the European public sphere in terms of debate, with critical thinking and the problem of to what extent carbon pricing is a socially sustainable policy. And our approach was always a combination of lowering taxes for workers as an accompaniation of the carbon pricing policy. So I think we need to hold to this idea. And I see Marco Cappato connected from somewhere in Italy because he's traveling across Italy to promote the referendum on the end-of-life decisions. I think he's in Bologna right now. So the humans these days are pretty much scattered around the world and Italy for the referendum campaign, but we thought it was very important to have this moment to evaluate Stop Global Warming, to imagine his future perspective, but also to have a bit of discussion with the people and the citizens who played an active role. And we decided to call for this meeting as humans because this is the first time that we carry an initiative from beginning to end. And so it's important for us to also discuss this initiative in the framework of us as a movement. If Marco is ready, maybe before giving the floor to Alberto Maiocchi, I will ask Marco to give us a bit of introduction to this tonight's meeting, because 3 years ago, he was the one that started to say carbon pricing, carbon pricing, carbon pricing. He seemed a bit crazy maybe, and now last week, everyone was talking about carbon pricing. So Marco, maybe help us to kick off this meeting and help us to celebrate with a critical approach, which is, we know it's what we like to do at Humans. So Marco Cappato, president of Humans and co-promoter with Monica Frassoni of stopglobalwarming.eu, and after him, Alberto Maiocchi.
Thank you, Virginia, and thank you to all, not just for being here today, but for what you have done during these weeks and during these years also. The key speech will be from Alberto Maiocchi, because he's the one who knows, and he's the one who wrote the proposal and prepared the ground from the scientific point of view. Because it's true that there are people who have been working on that since decades. The idea of using prices to discourage high CO2 emission and to encourage a low emission economy. So I don't want to speak about that. I'm just saying that the campaign is entering in a new phase. The campaign did not end here. We ended the phase, the European Citizen Initiative. The goal of the European Citizen Initiative was to convince the European Commission to trigger the legislative initiative on carbon pricing, the European Commission did something. It is not completely satisfactory. There are many things that we would like to improve, but the European Commission did something. So we now have 3 levels of activity that should be done. The first level is to amend the Commission proposal, because the Commission proposal should pass through the vote of the European Parliament and the European Council, so the EU government. So there is still much work to do in order to reinforce those chapters that are not properly included in the Commission proposal. And Alberto Baiocchi will talk about that. There is also the global level, the COP26 and in general the United Nations debate, because carbon pricing, in order to be truly effective, should become a global policy. This is why we should transform the campaign from a European to a global campaign. So we have to discuss also on how this could be done, because global players are different than European players. This is the second level of our campaign. The third level, of course, is a national level, national government, the Italian government, the German government, the French government, so on and so forth, because we have already seen that the Commission proposal triggered a lot of resistance from a position which is the opposite of our position around Europe. So we don't have just to work at the international, European and global level, we have also to work at the national level. So I think we have now to have this first discussion, but we will need more time to build the initiative at the European and global and national level to go on with the idea of shifting taxes from labor to CO2 emission. This is maybe one of the weakest points of the Commission proposal. Is not clear that we don't want to raise taxes. We want to shift the tax burden. Labor is too much taxed in Europe and in Italy, and natural resources are exploited without paying. So the social chapter should be combined to the environmental chapter. This is our goal, and I think we can do much more together, continuing this campaign and making evaluate toward new goals. So thank you, humans, thank you, Virginia, and thank you to all.
Thank you, Marco Cappato. I also want to mention another space. I'm not sure Marco mentioned it, but there is also the Conference on the Future of Europe as another weak but political space at the European Union level. The carbon pricing proposal is also on the platform of the Conference on the Future of Europe. And it's something that can be endorsed by citizens, but it's also a way to connect the dots within the European engaged citizens that are trying to use that political space. Of course, it's not clear yet what will be the output of the Conference on the Future of Europe, but for sure, this is another playground, because to be honest, at this stage, it's pretty much a playground, but it's worth mentioning that space also because as humans from our last assembly, we had the Conference on the Future of Europe as one of the areas of engagement and potential space for change. I want to say that the major part of us are not English native speakers. So if you don't feel comfortable in speaking in English, no worries, don't be shy. We try to, it's a way to communicate. So I hope that also the Italians that usually attend the Italian meeting and not the European meetings will feel trying saying something, even if language wise might be a bit difficult. We will try to have these also in Italian next week, but we really wanted to have the first moment of exchange on the initiative in the more pan-European way possible. And so I just wanted to encourage all of us to try and communicate rather than being perfect. So the floor is to Professor Alberto Maiocchi for his comments, evaluation, and perspectives. And I invite everyone to register for speaking either via chat or with the raising hand functionality on the Zoom features. Alberto,
Okay.
that I
Thank
know
you.
like to call professor.
So, without professor, yes. Okay, Virginia, thank you to everybody. I will try to be brief, but it's important to derive some ideas about what is happening in these days in the European Commission. Fit for 55 package is a very important step forward. And as Marco has to remember, 3 years ago, speaking of carbon pricing was completely out of completely unthinkable. Now everybody is discussing what is must be done. I don't pay much attention about the details, but I will try only to pick up the main points. As Virginia has remembered, there were 3 points in our initiative. The first, generalization of carbon pricing to all sectors. The second one is border carbon adjustment in order to avoid carbon leakages and loss of competitiveness for European industry. And the third one, fiscal reform, shifting the burden of taxation from labor to use of natural resources. So now my judgment is that these 3 points politically have been achieved. Politically, there are many points to be discussed, but politically they have been achieved. So the first point, first element in the Fit for 55 package is extending a new ETS, emission trading system, to 2 important sectors, transport and residential and buildings, with a new system that is very similar to a carbon tax. Because if the European Commission implements the German scheme, the German method, the payment will be done, the purchase of permits will be done by importers or producer of fossil fuels. And then the price will be shifted to the consumers. So from the technical point of view, ETS in these 2 sectors with an upstream approach is very similar to a carbon tax, but avoiding the use of tax. So this politically is important. So probably many people say it would be better to have a true carbon tax, but we know what is the difficulty of introducing new taxes in the political debate. So this is the first point, generalization of carbon pricing. The second point, there is a proposal for border carbon adjustment with some technical also points that have to be discussed. I know this is a sensible point. For instance, there is discussion now also in the United States. The Democrats have proposed a border carbon adjustment, but this is very difficult without carbon prices. In the United States, they think in terms of new regulations, but new regulation cannot, if you have only regulation, it's very difficult to get the WTO agreement for border carbon adjustment. So the European system is more efficient than the American one. But in any case, this is a point that is on the table for discussion. The last point, as Marco has told, for us is very important, fiscal reform, shifting the burden of taxation from labor to natural resources and to emission. Okay, it's not complete. It's quite, it's the weakest point in the Fit for 55 package. But in any case, there is some elements in this package in the sense that a large part of the revenue flowing from applying a new ETS to the 2 sectors, residential and transport, should be devoted to a just transition mechanism in order to avoid social distrust or to support regions in difficulty. This is a fourth point that should be expanded, and I think this is the point that we must stress in our future discussion. Some brief consideration about the future. As Virginia said, the next rendezvous is COP26. I've written a small article on the Italian newspaper, Il Sole 24 Ore, with three main points. First, generalize carbon pricing. This is in Europe already practically achieved if the new ETS is accepted by the governments. The second point is fix a minimum carbon price at the international level. This is not very easy, but discussion with the United States are possible, and this is important in order to avoid competition among different systems. And this is more or less the same argument that is under discussion between the United States and the other part of the world about corporate taxation. So the idea of a minimum global corporate tax at 15% could be extended to achieve a minimum global carbon price all over the world. The third point was the idea proposed by Rajan, the Indian economist, to oblige the countries where per capita emissions are higher than 5 tons per year to pay a fee, and with this revenue to redistribute all the revenue to countries where emission per capita are lower than 5 tons per person per capita. This idea of Rajan means that the idea of social equity should be pursued not only at the national and European level, but worldwide, in the sense that countries where emissions are higher, for instance, the United States, should cooperate with the other countries in order to support developing countries in achieving the goal of carbon neutrality in 2050. On these 3 points, I think we can push our initiative, discussing at the national level, but also, and I end with this remark, it's very important the role of the cities, the role of municipalities. 80% of emissions are in the cities. And so the measures, and we had a great support in our initiative by the measures, can play a role in order to extend the use of carbon pricing and trying to get an international agreement on this field. So I think that our objective, we have to target not only national government, but also major and municipalities in our initiative. Okay.
Thank you very much, Alberto. I don't see any request for speaking, but I see a lot of people who worked a lot on the campaign for different reasons. So I see that there is Avi Candeli, who will be the creative director of the campaign. So maybe, I don't know if she has the possibility to speak and say something about the network of supporters of the initiative. I see, as I said, Elisabetta Facco, but also Stefan and Ioana, who were among the first. Ioana is one of the 7 citizens, Ioana Ionel from Romania, one of the 7 citizens that allowed us to publish the European Citizen Initiative and to start that. So thanks for that, because I remember that to launch a European Citizen Initiative, you need 7 citizens from 7 EU member states who activate the whole process. Henri from France, let's use the meeting to mix the analysis of Alberto, the thorough analysis of Alberto, also with some additional evaluations on the campaign, the strategy, the future, the past, etc. Roger Casale, who shared in the chat the article on Vox Europe. Thanks to the Humans membership to Vox Europe, we have published on this magazine the article in English, French, and German of the first evaluation of the Fit for 55. And so we have a bit of a reach there. Okay, Roger is jumping on. I don't know, Roger, do you want to say a few words before you go, or should...
Thank you very much. Well, just to say what I've said in the chat, I don't want to take any of the precious time. Congratulations on everything that's been achieved so far. Thank you for all the positive energy that everybody is contributing. And we are with you for the next phase of the campaign. And I think that, it is a multi-level process, and as Alberto has said, the mayors are so important, as is the international dimension as well as the national European. So we need to have lots of help from everybody, because there's so much work to be done. But I think it's meaningful work. It is demonstrating that it's effective. And, as Marco told us, we are now going into a new phase of the campaign. And I just here to say that we've got it, we understand that, and we are with you, and good luck. And I'm sorry that I have to go to another meeting, but that's good, because we all need to be networked together. And I would take a very positive message to the other stakeholders and partners of New Europeans and encourage them to support this too. So thank you very much. Great work. Thanks, Marco, Virginia, and everyone. And see you soon.
Thank you, Roger Casale, Director of New Europeans and also partner of Humans in the Citizens Takeover Europe Coalition, which is another instrument that we have available. I see with us also Flavia Panzieri, and I don't want to throw you in the arena, but since you have the UN experience and we are talking about the global level, maybe you want to tell us something from your perspective. I mean, you joined us through Stop Global Warming, basically, but also maybe you can tell us a bit of what does COP, because we keep saying, okay, COP26, COP26, but what is the global playground that we move in? And if you have any evaluation that you want to share with us, I think it's precious for us to hear you as a citizens, but also as a former UN civil servant, or I don't know if it's correct to say civil servant, but probably that's what it should be.
National civil servants, that's what I was, and that's what we call ourselves. And I think the accent should be both on the civil, but also on the servant, because it is a service role that the UN performs, or tries to at least. Let me say just a couple of things. I would have expected many more signatures, to be honest. And I think that COVID has been really a spanner in the spokes of our initiative's wheels. And it's disappointing from that point of view. And at the same time, I think the fact that perhaps also because of these difficulties and what COVID has implied, there has been a greater awareness, certainly right now with what is happening with floods in China and fires in Canada and where else. I think the famous deniers of climate change are starting to become much more silent and certainly having less of a grip. So I do believe that we are facing now a situation where both at the level of the citizens, but also at the level of the governments, there is a greater recognition that there is no planet B. We need to do something to address the issues with our current planet, because it's really not going the right way. And not everyone is Jeff Bezos, who can just take off and go into space to look for better climes. So I think there is a political opening that is important to continue to leverage, and being vocal and continuing to be engaged definitely is the way to go. I also think that there is a recognition, COVID again has helped in realizing on the part of politicians and decision makers in, let's say, OECD developed countries, that it's fine to try to solve the problems in the EU or in a relatively developed context, but if you don't address them globally, you just get nowhere. And same as COVID crosses borders, and we are worried about the Delta variant, but I think we need to start worrying about why haven't we been able to vaccinate enough people in developing countries? Because that will become a threat for them, as it is already, but also for those who have been having better opportunities. So I think the political awareness is there. I think we need to leverage COP 26 as 29, I never remember the numbers, the next COP, basically, to just continue to argue that carbon pricing and all other aspects of addressing climate change are issues that cannot be tackled either nationally alone or by groupings like the EU alone. They have to have a global response. And I was really delighted to hear the reference that were just made about the possibility of taking some of what could be the income from taxing CO2, not just to move taxation from labor to polluters, essentially, but also to provide the means, in a sense, in the spirit of what the Global Fund, Environment Fund, the GEF was and is, to move resources also to developing countries. And I think this is going to be important, first, because it is important in itself, but secondly, because it will gain us some support among developing countries who are always very skeptical about any action that is aimed at, essentially, that's the way they see it, curb their development by putting limits to their emissions, because we, the developed countries, have been making a mess of the environment. And so in order to get them to be online and with us, there has to be something for them. And this something has to be commitment to support them while they do work on reducing their own emissions, which as they develop will continue to increase. And unless there is a change in the production models and so on, that they can also benefit from some of the resources that other countries, which will do more in terms of taxing emissions and shifting the taxation burden and so on, will be able to provide for them. If we can get this point across, I think we can find allies in the G77 and groupings, minus China perhaps, which is the case in itself. That will have to be thought through better, because I don't know quite how to get at them. But we can find the G77 at least more responsive if they see that they're not left alone in tackling the problem. So I see the COP as an opportunity to go in prepared to build this broader partnership and bringing developing countries along as we struggle in the so-called industrialized, so-called developed countries, and I have some doubts sometimes about development, to address issues of climate change and CO2 emissions. Thank you. I have to excuse myself. I have another commitment coming up, and oops, I'm already 10 minutes late. But thank you very much for the opportunity to share. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Flavia, for your contribution, for your activism, for the connection that you have created, and for being with us tonight as well. Thanks a lot. Okay, I see a lot of people that are super expert from a technical perspective. So we have Stefan, Henri, and we have the opportunity also to have for probably one of the first pan-European debates on the topic, because Stefan is from Germany and he's from France, where we're probably one of the places where the social element of carbon pricing was first problematized after the Macron proposal a few years ago. So I don't know, Henri, if you have the ability to connect and comment, and also tell us maybe how the Fit for 55 was received in France, given the French experience, or maybe Stefan, but I think we can use wisely this time tonight to also have these angles from different national perspective that have a different approach to the policy. And Franco is based in the Netherlands, where there is a kind of advanced state for carbon pricing policy. So maybe it's a good opportunity to try and have this nation-based vision versus a pan-European approach. That is what will come out from Fit for 55 potentially.
If I might say two things, Virginia, would you give me the floor, please? Yeah?
The floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So the first thing is really, I'd like to say thank you to Virginia and Marco, first of all, for their great and lasting effort over the past 2 years. You were not alone. Obviously, we tried to help you, and there were people like Octavian, Pablo, etc., who I think helped really a lot. But you two really stood in the spotlight, and you did so much, and that is much appreciated. Thank you very much for that. And the second point I would like to make, I would very much welcome if this campaign somehow remains alive, so that we can refer to it when we make a comment on carbon pricing, because we can now speak, I believe, in the name of 61,000 European citizens from all over Europe. That is not nothing. It is something, it is political capital we should work with when we make a comment, for example, on European climate policy, on the ETS, etc. So that I would very much welcome if this campaign in a certain way remains alive, so that we can refer to it with a website and maybe something else, so that it is not just something you can Google and find something in the past, but still something in the present. That would be very important, I believe. And those were the two things, the two comments I wanted to make. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. I think this is the approach. Of course, we need to do things with we need to be sustainable with our energies. And I think part of the meeting is how to find sustainability in ourselves. But for sure, there will be revamping at least of the website to kind of picture the moment where we are and where we will go. So, and your help is going to be needed in any way to this, and thanks for being among the silent but very active supporters of the campaign in terms of sharing it on LinkedIn, for example. You were very active. Also to take part into the events organized by the European Commission, for example, in Germany, where we had the chance to present the campaign. One question before giving the floor to someone else is if you can share with us anything on how the European Commission proposal was received in Germany, and like what's the reaction, if there was any reaction, because sometimes these things goes a bit unheard in the political debate and in the news, but maybe some German perspectives are quite interesting.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I mostly followed the reporting on the European level. There was some reporting, obviously, in Germany as well. I remember some doubts being raised about how successful the Commission proposals will be. I think these doubts, they are justified, but nevertheless, nobody in Germany said this can never go through, including the ETS proposal for transport and buildings. So yeah, I think well, people said Germany was behind the idea, mostly with Germany and Denmark, of the ETS extension idea. That was then denied by the German government. They said, no, we are not alone. That was not a German thing. That is a more general thing. I hope they are right. Yeah, I don't think in the German press this was really a thing very much discussed, which probably had to do with the fact that we had our floodings a week ago that really overshadowed everything else, including these policy proposals. So I am confident, and I would really hope so, that there will be proper debates later on in Germany as well on these proposals.
Thank you, Stefan. I don't see any other raised hands, so as they say in churches, do it now or don't shut up forever. I shared the link on Humans Agora, so there is also the forum if maybe you want to take some time to review the summary of what Alberto Maiocchi shared with us, share your perspective exactly in the light of what Stefan said, how we keep this alive. But in the meantime, if anyone wants to say something,
yeah, I can give a quick update on the French side. So obviously, everything with carbon tax is not very discussed in France, except from the French Green. But the good news is the French Green, who will be candidate to next year for the general election, all talk about carbon pricing. For example, Sandrine Rousseau is one of the main candidates, and she's an economist, so obviously she's for carbon pricing, and she as well insists. One of the angles she insists is that as well, you really need the social aspect to the carbon tax. It has to be social and pro environment, like the campaign Stop Global Warming were pointing. And then I guess the wider picture, I guess in France, I guess the sequence is hopefully. I think in France, in terms of French Green, we really hope the German Green will win in September, because in September the French Green will choose the French Green candidate. So it will really give a momentum to have a green, a French Green who could potentially win next year. So let's see. So I just wanted to tell you congratulations for the campaign. I think what you did is just amazing and truly inspiring.
Thank you, Henri, also for doing your best to help us to franchise, I don't know if it's a correct word, the campaign, and for being a sparkle of stopglobalwarming.eu in France and in the UK, in the French community, but also in UK in general. I just want to highlight how this campaign really started from a group of Italians, and we cannot hide this element, but we really did everything we could, and probably also beyond everything we could, to try to bring it across the EU. And in this, my evaluation is that COVID-19 was a killer, to be honestly, because the whole idea was to travel across the EU, to bring the campaign across the different cities, smaller cities, larger cities, and of course, it's true that the digital experience helped us quite a bit. Antonio calculated that we had over 100 hours of live streaming on the matter of carbon pricing, which is, I mean, it's quite a record. And we did our best, but there is nothing like the real life body experience to carry on a campaign. So of course, this would have been different without COVID, but as we say in Italian, don't cry on the dropped milk. And so I don't know if it's correct, but we can just learn from the opportunity that we had and try to leverage this in the future, hoping that we can travel a little bit more, as well as connecting and activating groups in different places. Okay, I mean, since we spent over 100 hours online for the past year or so, I don't want to spend too much time tonight in the meeting. So last shot for everyone who wants to say something and didn't speak yet.
I guess if I can, I just say something really quickly about, well, first of all, congratulations as well. This was, I think, very worthwhile. Just about the discussion on shifting tax, using tax revenues also to essentially do development funding. There is actually a great opportunity to also respond to some of the criticisms that have been brought forward for the carbon border adjustment mechanism, which did not exclude, or is not it's not planning, the proposal is not planning on excluding emerging economies from this type of border levy. So if the proposal has this discussion of, okay, we're going to use some of the revenues to actually bring development, it can actually bring forward some strengthening points for our campaign.
Thank you, Franco. Any Dutch, Netherlands perspective you want to share as well, since you're based in the Netherlands? And I think the case of Netherlands is quite interesting because it's a very much regional approach to carbon pricing. So I don't know if you want to share anything on this part.
Well, here there is a pretty large community of economists actually supporting this type of policy, and there's been a bit of a pushback, quite a bit of a pushback from industrial actors on having a national implementation of a carbon tax, because they don't want to have the overlap with the ETS. So there is quite a large network that can be interested actors that can be leveraged, but at this moment, nothing seems, at least from my perspective, from what I know, seems to be moving that much forward. I think everybody's kind of waiting for what's going to happen with the Fit for 55 and the Green Deal in general.
Thank you, Franco. Again, I'm there throwing people in the spotlight, but I don't know if Elisabetta was instrumental in building the network of testimonials, particularly in Italy, connecting all, I would say, almost actors, musicians, artists, celebrities. And I think in the evaluation of the campaign, it's important to have a sense of what you think was the driver for these people that are citizens with superpowers somehow to engage in this type of campaign. I think for a sort of a debriefing, evaluation, understanding what moved people that maybe for other reasons in life, I mean, are engaged on the environmental issue or not. But I don't know if Elisabetta, you want to say a few words on why do you think that was beyond the friendship and connection, but what was the driver for these, what they are usually called influencers, but really I prefer to say citizens with superpowers. So maybe do you want to say something about this if you want? If you don't want to, you have to say it publicly, but I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. We all know what Ilaria has done, Ilaria Venturini Fendi has done, and of course I collaborate with her. So I have to say that she was really committed to this campaign, and she still is committed to the idea of introducing carbon pricing. Of course, we're not technicians. We leave to you the job of really creating the situation and the real, the real situation in order to make it happen the way that we would like to happen. Many of you stressed the importance of the social aspect and the shifting to labor taxes. I think that as far as Italy is concerned, this is my opinion, of course, but I think what we really liked in this proposal was the fact that the social aspect that we know in Italy is so much important, because there would be so really a great resistance to the introduction of policies that some way are related to the idea of new taxes. And so we know that would be very, very important for I think, as a message to really stress this aspect in future campaigns that we hope are going to start very soon, because we do not have to lose, how can I say, we work everybody worked so much on this campaign. It would be a pity to lose, all the advantage and all the results that we reached in this great effort that we all made. And we should not wait too long to really start thinking about the new steps and what we should do next to further push this idea and try to find the best way to introduce carbon pricing. We know, we all agree now that carbon pricing is going to be something real, but maybe we have to find the right way, and this needs a big effort. I think we should maybe find a way to find also testimonials, because this was your questions, and influencers that should be, how can I say, more international probably, because something worked in Italy with the people that we knew that have, somewhat are influential in Italy. But what we lacked at the end was maybe connecting with other influencers all over Europe, because of course, this is not just about Italy or just one country. It is global, it is European, and it is global. So we need to reach a higher level, I think. That's all. Thank you, all of you, of course.
Thank you, Elisabetta, for everything that you and Ilaria did for the campaign, but also for these inputs and energies. So it's 7:27.
I think, Virginia, if I can maybe a final comment, or
yes.
if it's a final. Well, I think we are already working, and Elisabetta is right in saying we don't have much time spare. We don't have just to think, we have to be ready to act. I know that Professor Maiocchi is already working to the reframing of our European Citizen Initiative in a global initiative. And this is a key point, because we already have many municipalities around Europe, even capital cities as Dublin, Riga, and so on. And we have two former president of the United Nations General Assembly, the former High Commissioner for Human Rights, and also Flavia Pansieri as a Vice Commissioner. So we have already a global dimension of the campaign, and we have to build upon that. We have to build on what we have created so far. So this is the first step, to make it global. And at the same time, we have to transform what is lacking in the Commission proposal from our proposal into amendments. So I think we can draft during August amendments to the Commission proposals, and then being ready to propose them to European Parliament and European government. So these two things we can realize them, if not immediately, really in the coming few weeks. So I take the point, and I think we are ready to act. At the same time, we have still to think about our strategy, the role of humans, the role of the Stop Global Warming campaign. So we have many decisions to make, but I think the strategy in a way is already there, and we have to build on what we created thanks to the effort of all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marco. My final comment, as having the double role of coordinator of humans and trying to coordinate as much as possible the network of Stop Global Warming with the precious help. I really want to thank also, I mean, beyond all the activists and citizens who put their effort and maybe are not tonight also because there were a lot of Italians that were scared by this meeting tonight, but I want to thank Octavian, who is with us, Adam, who is with us, and Sophie, who decided to use their time as interns, that they have this mandatory internship at universities, and they decided to give it a shot with a civic movement, which maybe is not super fancy. We don't know if it's fancy or not as a professional move, but for sure is been essential, their help and commitment way beyond what's been mandatory. And I really want to thank them, because without them, this wouldn't have been possible, to be honest. But
Mille grazie.
I'm also crying because people know that I'm very emotional, but I want to say that I think to do this, we need to think about how citizens can engage in this type of campaign without this being too dependent on me or the interns or the campaign in itself. I think we should find ways where a committee of citizens can really take these things to the next level with the help of humans as a facilitator of this type of initiatives. Because as I said, sustainability of a group of people is part of what is needed to sustain a campaign, make it larger, make it bigger, reaching different corners of the European Union. And as a movement, I think we did well in our first challenge, but we need to think how we can do it more effectively and more on the long run. So whoever wants to work on what we discussed tonight, I think maybe the summer is a good time to think and put together the foundation and being ready in September for the next steps. So thanks, one, because everything that we have done, it's really cool. I mean, we need to debrief, we need to see what we can do better, but I think tonight is also an opportunity to say that we did something that wasn't there before and that wouldn't have been there without us. So we can cheer a little bit and imagine how to keep rolling, as the hashtag on Instagram that I used for the entire time. We can do it. So thanks everyone. The link on Humans Agora is there for this type of conversation. The mailing lists are there for some exchange, and so have a happy and hopefully not too hot summer. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye. Have a good summer.
Ciao.
Grande Marco, cheering.
Cheers, Marco.
Thank you, bye.
Enjoy.
Ciao, Marco.
Thanks
Ciao.
Marco for throwing us in the playground.